This was a defensive draft. And then 3 wide receivers go in the top 10 and 3 quarterbacks go in the top 12. 4 quarterbacks drafted in the first 2 rounds. In fact, starting with UNC's Mitchell Trubisky to the Bears as the 2nd overall pick, the only ACC quarterback picked higher than Trubisky, Jameis Winston. The Chiefs traded up to draft Patrick Mahomes at number 10. Afterward, Andy Reid reaffirmed Mahomes needs time, emphasizing again Alex Smith is the starter. The Texans traded up to draft Clemson's Deshaun Watson. That made the 2017 draft the first in which 3 different teams traded up to draft a first-round quarterback. The Browns waited until day 2 to add a QB. Cleveland took Toledo, Ohio native Deshaun Kaiser with this 52nd overall pick. All right, let's dig into these quarterback fits. And maybe let's start with the off-field issue for the Bears, because Mike Glennon was actually at their draft day party when this pick went down. He had no idea. Imagine, there you are, the starting quarterback. So you probably have to think that maybe there's going to be a little work to do between the general manager and the quarterback. Would you agree with that?
I think Mike Glennon was going in there to prove himself, and they're not going to want to rush along Mitchell Trubisky anyway. There's no question they're going to have to iron out that relationship, and that is an awkward, at best, situation. But the fact of the matter is, he was coming in there in 1 year, and they had the option to look at his contract after 1 year. So he's still going to do that. But I think he now has to know that he's probably not the long-term solution unless Mitchell Trubisky doesn't work out.
Here's the problem is he had options. Chicago wasn't his only option.
Tampa wanted him back bad.
So here's the problem. You have options, and you're in a situation now where they draft a quarterback so high, they give up picks, say 3-13 football team. They didn't help him. So he has one chance, one season to play as a starter. So now all of a sudden, in his one opportunity to be a full-time starter for somebody, he can get any help, and he's on a team that's not very good.
Given that he had other options, you know, he had a choice here, Lewis, and you know that at least for now this marriage is continuing. What's the first conversation you have with him at the front office to a guy who's probably not thrilled?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, when you kind of stress the fact that, look, you're a professional. There's really not much you can really do right now to repair the relationship after the fact, because you've already declared really what your long-term plan is here. So, look, players aren't dumb. They understand how this works. Whereas his feelings are hurt and he's probably disappointed. I think, Tim, this makes a great point, though. The fact of the matter is, not only did they not help him, they didn't help the rest of their football team, and they didn't really help the coaching staff that's sitting there right now. So there's a lot of people right now who are looking at this transaction and going, well, how does this help me if I'm Mike Glennon? If John Fox is going, how does this help me as far as winning football games this year? There's a lot of positions that, because they gave up some third-round draft picks, they weren't able to fill. So now there's a lot of people kind of looking at this going, maybe we're not part of the long-term plan here.
I think long-term is the important word, because that's what this decision was. We're going to give up a lot now and go get a quarterback. After we decided last year not to go give up a lot to go get Carson Wentz, we decided we want to do this year, and hopefully the hope is obviously that they've got their quarterback for a decade. And to me, this is an organizational decision for the long term, not about the present coaching staff or winning maybe even in 2017.
Well, long-term is really the theme for all the quarterbacks who are taken in the first round. So let's talk about the fit for the other guys, too, like a Patrick Mahomes, who we know is going to sit behind Alex Smith.
Love that.
Best fit by far. Andy Reid, everything he touches turns to gold to quarterback. And you think about Donovan McNabb out of an offense that was basically an option, brings him in and develops him. You think about what he did throughout his career in developing quarterbacks. Look, Alex Smith made him kind of a plateau quarterback, but still developing. Mahomes is a ultimate gunslinger. We talked about that. He wants to be good. He wants to learn. And I think Andy Reid already has said he's going to be sitting, watching, and learning, which is perfect. He's not saying he's competing for the starting job. He knows what his role is going in, is to look at Alex Smith and say, I'm going to follow you and be a sponge and learn as much as I can. And in year 2, maybe have a chance to compete for a job. So perfect scenario for Patrick Mahomes.
He has the best raw tools of all these quarterbacks, but he is the furthest away from being ready, I think, to start of all the quarterbacks, too. So he to me, is the best project you could have in this kind of situation where they don't have to rush him on the field.
I think he got put in the best situation. If you look at some of these other quarterbacks, whether it's Trubisky's off-the-field issues dealing with Glennon and being that pick, whether it's Deshaun Watson, who I think is going to have to play for the Houston Texans to be good. This guy knows he's sitting.
Kaiser, Cleveland.
Right, yeah, he knows he's sitting. He gets to learn from a very good quarterback, but also a great quarterback coach. And so when you get put in that position, a guy with the tools like you're speaking of, it's perfect for him. No, it doesn't matter about the team, but for him, it's a great position
Less
to be
pressure. Less pressure on Patrick Mahomes than any of these rookie quarterbacks this year.
John Gruden and I talked about this before the draft, the fact that, look, if you're going to take Patrick Mahomes, he needs to go somewhere where you can do this. You can say, look, you're going to sit. We're going to dedicate a certain amount of time to your weight training. We're going to dedicate a certain amount of time to your on-the-field work, your classroom work, and you're basically going to have a redshirt year where we just get you ready for the following year. No pressure, learn the pro game. That's what you need. That's what he needed. There's not a better place. There's just not a better place because you have the ultimate teacher here. And Matt Nagy, their offensive coordinator, is a rising superstar in the NFL, too, who will be a head coach here in very short order.
You're not dividing your team. Your team knows that Alex Smith is still the quarterback. There's no competition for that job.
I think I'll always wonder if Deshaun Kaiser wound up in the situation that Pat is in. Would it have flipped and reversed too? We talk so much about the draft leading up and everything going into the process. We don't talk enough about where they wind up landing and the importance of that. And I think Mahomes is going to be a great case.
I would just add this on Mahomes. We all touched on it basically. He is so raw. He needs a massive amount of work. This isn't hey, he's a spread offense. He needs to get a little work. He needs a ton of refinement.
As much work as I can remember.
Anybody,
they know that.
Yeah, of course they do.
Throwing motion, footwork, all of that stuff. And I would say this, going to that staff, to your point, Lewis, is the difference between being, Jay Cutler making these crazy gunslinger decisions and being more like Brett Favre and having success.
With Carson Wentz.
It sure did. We've seen this movie before.
Yeah. All right, so just to put a button on this, some of the teams that surprisingly didn't go quarterback. Chargers, no. Jets, no. New Orleans, no, but that's probably because the guy they really wanted wasn't there. 10 quarterbacks in all, and we'll get back to some of this quarterback stuff in just a bit.
We'll talk a little more about Deshaun Watson, who, to your point, his situation is different because he may have to play. However, the draft bracket. They want me to call it the dracket. They want me to call it the dracket, so I'll do it. But here's the premise. We're going to look at all 32 teams, pit them against each other, and try and determine who won, if you will. We'll go slowly, walk you through it to figure out who had the best weekend. And we'll go initially division by division, and we'll start with the AFC East. First up, the Patriots versus the Miami Dolphins, Todd.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots. The Dolphins, I like Charles Harris. I thought that was a good pick. I thought there a little bit of reaching going on after that spot, but I'm going to take the New England Patriots here over the Dolphins with the draft.
All right. They weren't kidding. They put up Dracket. They said they were going to. And you like that, Mel? You like the Dracket? You
good.
do? Okay, good. All right. Bills and Jets. Who you got?
I'm going to go here with the Bills. I thought just a little bit more of a complete draft for them. I was impressed with the direction that they went in. And the Jets, to me, I love the first pick. Jamal Adams was one of the steals of the draft. After that, I didn't think that they were quite on par with the Bills in terms of what they did for the remaining 6 rounds.
Okay, so eventually we'll pit the Patriots and the Bills. But for now, Mel, let's look out west, the AFC West.
This was relatively easy. Kansas City, I think, when you look at what they were able to do and you think about where they are right now, they're a kind of team that I think will benefit from this draft down the road with Mahomes. The Raiders, Darian Conley, is he going to be on the field? I think Conley's the key guy. If he is, Eddie Vanderdoes, how he develops. Conley is the key centerpiece. If he's on the field, they get value because he would have been in the top 10 to 14.
All right, AFC West.
Yeah, you look at this, and the San Diego Chargers, I think they did such a really good job in the draft. That's why I put them over Denver, who did, and Todd would agree. Garrett Bowles, if he's the left tackle, they probably jumped the Chargers. So the LA Chargers I give the edge to, but overall Denver got some real steals with Jake Butt and company. They did a good job, so that was really a close one to figure.
And again, we're making these decisions based on what we know now. I mean, things change. This will look a lot different in 3 years.
It's a good
segue.
segue.
What we think. Yeah,
that's why the Patriots, I think, continue to go on because we have much more known commodities. 32 overall. They basically get Brandon Cooks.